In this video, I wanted to show you an example of how to take your data and make a frequency distribution using StatCrunch. Now on this problem right here, we have our data, and you can see it wants us to put all the values in for our frequency distribution down here. Our data right here is like in this little table we have to kind of click on, and just like before, we are going to take our data and open it in StatCrunch right here. And of course, when you click this, it's going to open up your data in StatCrunch right here, just like we've seen before. Now, the first thing I want to do when I'm starting out working with this data is go ahead and sort it, because even when we were making frequency distributions before, it is good to have it sorted so that we're able to count up the values. So I'm going to go ahead and sort this table right here, and now you can see I have all my values in order. Now, one thing you can do next is to figure out what classes they are going to be in. And whenever you are making a frequency distribution, generally when you are talking about the very starting point for your distribution, you always want to use your lowest value in your data set, which our lowest value, as you've seen from that last little StatCrunch page, was 0. We have a few zeros in this data set actually. So 0 is going to be our lowest value, and then from there we want to figure out like what's going to be our class width as well, because that's used to basically generate all the values in our class side for our frequency distribution. Now, the way you generally calculate the class width is going to be taking your highest and lowest values, figuring out what the difference between those two is, and then dividing by the number of classes that you want. Now, our highest value in this data set is going to be 17. There's a few of those as well. And we're going to subtract 0 from that, which will just get 17. And then since we want to make 6 classes, like we have 6 classes that we're trying to make here, we're going to divide 17 by 6 in this case. Now, you can do this division for calculating the class width over on the side somewhere, and I ended up getting like 2.8333. Now, whenever you do this calculation for finding the class width, you always want to round that up to the next whole integer or whatever. So this will end up being 3 that we used for our class width. So definitely a number to keep in mind. And generally, when you're making this by hand, you will start at 0 and then you add 3, since that's our class width, down this way to generate these numbers: 0, 3, 6, 9, so forth. So you could populate it now using that class width. But what I want to do is use the class width also to do some stuff in StatCrunch. So if you go back to StatCrunch now, and when you're up here at the very top, select data. And we're actually going to sort this data into bins. StatCrunch uses bins to talk about classes right there, so it's the same thing. But we're going to select our variable, our first column of data or whatever, and then we're going to use fixed widths for our classes, our bins. So we want to start at 0 as our lowest value, and then our class width that we calculated was 3. So we're going to compute now, and you can see kind of what it did here in StatCrunch was that it added these like classes basically to all of your values. Like, it tells you basically where each value is. And now you can go through here and use those to populate the frequency side. I will say also that when it reads like 0 to 3, in this case right here, that class is actually 0 to 2. So they don't have like the way it displays here. It doesn't have like a divider between like where the upper class limit is and then the starting lower class limit of the next class. So it should be like 0 to 2. At least, it should say that. And then the next class would start 3 to 5, actually, not 6. So they calculate it correctly, but the the upper class limit that they have on theirs is, you need to make sure it's always one lower when you actually put it in your frequency distribution. So you could definitely go and now populate the sides of the frequency distribution if you want to, using this information from StatCrunch. So we know our first starting class would be 0 to 2, and you can count up now how many values are going to be in here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we would put a frequency of 9 right here beside this. Now I do want to show you one other thing you can do when you are summarizing to do your frequency distribution. You can also go up here to tables under stat and go to where it says frequency right here, and you can actually pick the column. Now you're going to pick the bin column that you made where it tells what class each value is in, but when you pick that right there and just do the frequencies, you don't have to if you have relative frequencies, you could do those too, but we just need frequencies for ours, and then do compute. You can see now that it has arranged our data into a frequency distribution, and so you can use this also as a quick way to basically put in your values now for your table. The only thing I'll caution you on, just remember when you are doing stuff in StatCrunch, the upper class limit is always like one less than what it should be here. So that first class would be 0 to 2, not 0 to 3, and then 3 to 5, and then so on and so forth. So that's the only thing I would caution you on when you are doing this in StatCrunch. But yeah, that'll be how you basically assemble your frequency distribution using StatCrunch.